Orgasmic enlightenment, where the sexual and spiritual come together. I'm Kim Anami, and I'm a holistic sex and relationship coach and a vaginal weightlifter. In this show, we explore all things intimate. I believe that our sexual energy is life force, creative energy, and we can use it to shape our worlds, strengthen our relationships, and self-actualize. I blend the most avant-garde information from neuroscience, ancient sexual practices like Tantra and Taoism, to renegade wellness modalities to show you how to create gourmet sex in your lives. Come one, come all.
Ageless and fit as fuck. Over the past few years, as there has been a movement to normalize obesity, sponsored by companies like McDonald's, I have proudly not participated in this mega advertising campaign in the slightest. As always, the imagery I use in my posts and videos is of fit, athletic people, including me. For a while, I would get messages from people saying, "Hey, Kim, why don't you post more normal people's bodies?" Firstly, my answer to that is fuck off. Secondly, if you don't like going to the gym, that isn't my problem. And thirdly, let's define normal, shall we? If we look in nature, do you see any fat animals? Ever? No, never. So normal animal and human bodies are actually fit and functional. The only fat animals you ever see are the ones locked in cages in zoos where they are fed shitty food, force-fed drugs, and are prohibited from exercising. Take from that analogy to human life what you will. Nah, my heroes are not the fatties. My heroes are the fitties. Like Julia Lynn Olson, a 67-year-old competitive bodybuilder, and Jeannie Rice, the 76-year-old marathon runner who broke the record for her own 75 to 79-year-old age group. And ripped at 70, we'll see if I can pronounce this, Wojciech Wektowowicz, aka fit_old boy on Instagram, who has the physique of an ultra svelte 20-year-old, and 99-year-old Betty Brussel, who recently broke 3 world swimming records for her age category in one day: the 400-meter freestyle, the 50-meter breaststroke, and the 50-meter backstroke. And Mighty Joe Stockinger, who at 90 years old holds several powerlifting world records in his age category and can deadlift 405 pounds. And there's Neon Soli, the 106-year-old Balinese Legong dancer. These are my heroes, the people who make being great, great again. Because at the end of the day, the only thing separating the svelte from the flab is self-discipline and self-love. If people were so fine with being overweight, would they really need to run around the internet screaming at people and begging everyone to accept how overweight they are and getting angry when people promote fit bodies? They could spend that same time going to the fucking gym and it would be problem solved. Yeah, so that's the weight thing. And then there is the aging thing. So about 7 years ago, I did over 100 hours of hyperbaric oxygen therapy at a 2.6 to 3 meter depth. I spent 2 hours a day in a chamber where you can't bring in your phone or your computer or even a book. So I had to watch movies on a TV screen that was outside of the chamber. So a friend of mine had the entire collection of Sex and the City, the TV series, all 6 seasons of it. And so I had never seen it live in its heyday. To be honest, it looked a bit boring and I never really got what all the fuss was about. But one day I was at my gym and Sex and the City was on the TV. And there was a clip where one of the characters, Miranda, the career woman lawyer, is dating Steve, a working class bartender. The show was exploring the dynamics between a woman who is more career-driven, successful, and financially well-off than her partner. And I thought, wow, this is fascinating. I'd love to see what they do with this. And so I got in on the Sex and the City action. Anyway, for anyone who never watched it or never had TV like me, The show is about 4 single women in their late 30s navigating dating and love and sex in modern-day Manhattan. The women characters are all very strong and smart and successful. They are emotionally intelligent, extremely well acted, and rounded out. The show is pretty universally loved and is still highly regarded as iconic, at least in some circles. And then, a few years ago, at the height of the DEI, or Didn't Earn It movement, they decided to do a reboot. They tracked the characters 20 years into the future as 50-something women. So in my world, i.e. the Kim Anami world, 50 is the new 30. The people and the role models I have for myself are sleek, hot, powerhouse men and women still rocking their sexual power, perhaps more than ever, in their 50s. But no, in the HBO world of these ladies, 50 is the new 80. The reboot of this once beloved show is called And Just Like That, which is entirely unwatchable, like something akin to torture, and bearing no resemblance to the wit, brevity, fun, and playfulness of the original show. It was actually just a pathetic exercise in public humiliation. It looked like Sarah Jessica Parker had caught wind that the show 20 years ago, which featured interracial and gay relationships and zero sexual judgment, wasn't progressive enough by today's standards, which is to say that the show wasn't a groveling act of shit swallowing. And so it would seem that as some kind of time-traveling penance, they resurrected the show just so that they could embarrass and humiliate the characters for not having enough people of color and trans and non-binary plot lines, in the lives of 4 straight women. So not only was the show a puke fest of retroactive apology and virtue signaling, but it portrayed each of these 50-something women as borderline senile 80-something senior citizens. Carrie, the main character, gets a hip replacement in her mid-50s. Charlotte has a stroke. Oh, no, wait, she mistakenly eats a pot brownie. Miranda, the once whip-smart, doesn't miss a beat senior partner power lawyer, has Alzheimer's. She bumbles around socially and emotionally inept, a frumpy, out-of-touch grandmotherly dork who can't seem to get the hang of today's climate of ultra-stupid whiners. I mean, who with any modicum of intelligence can? The only reason I know anything about the show is that I was following it through these online analyses of it, not because I watched it, because like I said, it is wholly unwatchable, unless virtue signaling apology porn is your thing, because I was curious about what kind of agendas were being embedded into it, which were, number 1, you have to apologize for things that need no apology. Number 2, 50 is the new 80. And number 3, 50 is really, really old. So recently I saw a meme that somebody posted about Betty White, who was in the TV show Golden Girls. Again, this is a show that I never watched. I thought just from afar that it was a bunch of 70-year-old ladies sitting around knitting and cracking shitty sitcom jokes. These women certainly look 70. They all have short, curler-style, old-fashioned grandma hair. They're all frumpy and overweight, and they wear clothing from the shop potato sack, zero sex appeal, asexual plaid. Like I said, I never watched it, so I actually don't know what these Golden Girls get up to, and for all I know, they're all super racy and down to fuck. But if I'm just looking at their physical portrayal, I was shocked to see that most of these women were meant to be in their 50s. According to TV programming, the golden age for people, or at least women people, is, I guess, 50. So what I'm saying here is that we have this constant messaging and programming, which is the exact purpose of television programs, telling people, and in these cases, especially women people, what it's like to grow older. The same thing happens in the realm of childbirth, with all of the programming around birth as being painful and the most traumatic punishment of a woman's life, when in actuality, it's the opposite. Birth is meant to be the biggest and most pleasurable orgasm of a woman's life. But the relentless narrative is so strong and pervasive that few women ever experience it this way. except in Anami land. The same brainwashing also happens with menopause. In many cultures, they don't even have a word for menopause, i.e. the cessation of women's periods, because it isn't even a thing. It is a non-momentous, non-event that is not accompanied by a slew of terrible and painful symptoms that will apparently plague a woman until the day she dies, and which conveniently can only be solved by a 40-year regimen of daily hormones, estrogen creams, and vaginal electrocution. That narrative only takes place in Western countries and in particular in North America, where menopausal women are the cash cow of allopathic medicine. Nah, it's not menopause. You're just underfucked. So in Anami land, the women of a certain age are lubricating and orgasming all over the place like nobody's business with raging libidos. So what is life like in Anami land? Well, the point of my entire podcast is to show you and to tell you. So here is some anti or positive programming for you. And we're going to talk about me. I am currently in the best shape of my life. So what is all this that I've preluded to do with my fitness journey? Because fuck all of this shit. We get fed these ideas of what we're supposed to look like and what we're meant to be capable of at various ages and stages of our lives. I am much more interested in optimal health, quantum healing, and maximizing the potential of my body, my mind, and my vagina. And so I do. For most of my adult life, I have been fairly fit. I was an athletic kid. I played competitive soccer. I sprinted in track and field competitions. I loved cycling, playing tennis, and just generally running around a lot. In my 20s, I wasn't into fitness as much, but I was into healthy eating. And then in my late 20s, I got really into the gym again. I was working out with heavy weights 3 times a week, and I would spend my summers running up mountains. I've had a very healthy, organic, whole foods diet for, I guess, my whole adult life from about age 22 onward. And I've run the gamut from being a raw foodist, a vegan, a pescatarian. A few years ago, I started to eat meat again, but now I'm back into just pescatarian. I love fish. So fast forward to about 5 years ago when I was working out a few days a week, and then I was surfing nearly every day, sometimes 2 to 3 hours a day. I was eating mostly vegan with some fish. One day I looked around my body and I realized that I had lost a lot of my muscle mass. My ass was gone. My legs were gone. Years of training and muscle building had evaporated. So I didn't realize it at the time, but with all of the high intensity cardio of surfing, the 30,000 steps or so a day that I was getting through that, and the low amount of my protein intake, my body had cannibalized itself. I wasn't taking in enough calories or protein to sustain all of the activity that I was doing. And so my body started to eat its own muscle. Now, I will say that there was a correlation with things that were happening in my life at the time where I was, in effect, eating myself on an energetic level. So there's that. Then during the great psyop of 2020, I was living somewhere. I wasn't surfing that much. I built a home gym, but I wasn't training as hard as I might. So there was some stagnancy. And I had had a set point weight for about nearly, let's say 20 years plus. And in this recent time period, it went up about 10 or 15 pounds. And I actually didn't even notice it at first because I don't weigh myself. I had ordered some clothes, and when they arrived, nothing fit me. And I couldn't understand it. I honestly thought that these companies had changed their sizing or something. And I was going to write this Karen letter to them, all upset. And then I thought, wait a minute, is this me? And shocker, yes, it was me. I had lost muscle and I had gained fat. I had tried upping my workout routine, but that wasn't really moving the needle. I was working out with a trainer and boxing and nothing. So I'd been hearing people talk about tracking macros, but I had no idea what that meant. I was getting the intuitive hit, though, that this was something I needed to get into. I had never tracked a macro before. I didn't even know what one was. I had never counted a calorie. And really, if the perfect storms of all the things that had happened around that same time hadn't happened, maybe I never would have. But they did happen, and I had to figure out a way through it. And so I did. I hired a trainer who could also help me with this whole macro journey. We started by taking my weight. We used a caliper to take my body measurements and my body fat percentage, which at that time was 21.8%. My goal was to lose 10 pounds, which would have brought me back down to what I think is what I weighed before. But again, because I didn't really weigh myself, I didn't fully know. My trainer put me into a caloric deficit, or a cut, based on the amount of average activity I typically did, which over the past 5 months has been working out 3 times a week at the gym, surfing 2 hours a day, 3 to 4 days a week, and then getting an additional, let's say 5,000 on average steps a day. In a couple of months, I hit my target, and then we kept going. I lost another 5 pounds, and so there was a total of 15 pounds. It was amazing and almost a little unfamiliar to feel so light and so lean in my own body. My body fat percentage now is between 10 and 12%, although I'm not totally sure on that because the machine that I'm using at the moment to measure may not be the most accurate. So in the whole macro tracking journey, I have been amazed at how much protein we really need, how little protein I was consuming over the years, how much work you have to put in to get that protein, although now that I've been doing it for several months, I've definitely hit a groove, and how I was relying on sweets and sugar, even though they were healthy sugars like coconut sugar. I never ate refined sugar ever, and relying on these things for energy when I was actually protein deficient. So for anyone who doesn't know, your macros are the daily percentages of carbs, fats, and protein in all of your food. In my fat loss and muscle building journey, my targets are to be eating a minimum of 1% of my body weight in grams of protein, but it's more like 1.2 or 1.3%. I've been counting my calories on an app and I love it. I'm tracking my macros and I love it. I'm really nerding out on all of this stuff because it's so effective. So I've been going to the gym for 3 decades, on and off, mostly on, but I've never been as fit or as sculpted as I am right now. I love working so closely with my trainer, and it'll be like, okay, I want to build my butt a little bit more and I want to pop the abs a little bit more, and off we go. Plus, she doesn't let me not push myself, meaning she's there with every set and every rep to make sure that I'm not pulling back and selling myself short. I am a pretty disciplined person, but when the weight is heavy, it can be easy to cave and be like, oh, I just won't do those few extra reps. But I do, and she helps me to get there. So for that, I want to give a huge shout out to Ultimate Performance. These guys are on it. My trainer was and is amazing. She totally held my hand through it all, and she guided me, answered all of my questions. If you hit them up, let them know that I sent you. This has all been a huge learning journey for me, and one that I'm still on, and I aim to be on for the rest of my life, because my hashtag fitness goals are to be in the 60, 70, 80, 90, 100-year-old plus super athlete, fit as fuck categories. The word Anami means that there is always another level to go. When people buy into the notions and the programming that they are too old or too menopausal or whatever excuse they want to give themselves as to why they cannot do something, I will be forever here holding the torch, showing you why and how you can. My legendary Well-Fucked Woman Salon opens for registration at the end of this month. This is the Anami guide to all things as fuck. Orgasmic as fuck, feminine as fuck, sensual as fuck, creative as fuck, rich as fuck, and of course, not giving a fuck. In the meantime, you can check out the free How to Be a Well-Fucked Woman video series and take the very enlightening quiz, Are You Underfucked? Go to kimanami.com, look for Sexual Savant Salons, and then click on How to Be a Well-Fucked Woman.
Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, subscribe and also leave a review. And send someone else the gift of a healthy libido and an off-the-charts love life by sharing this episode with them. We'll be back next week, and in the meantime, many happy orgasms.